The countdown is on. Avengers Doomsday is fans' most anticipated movie ever. Marvel is coming in a year, and Marvel is clearly not going to spare any expense. Regarding its marketing campaign, no production had ever dared to show so many images so far in advance. Reports say the marketing campaign for the conclusion of these universes would be the largest and costliest ever. Next to that, the one for Deadpool and Wolverine will quickly look like a supermarket promotion, and that's normal. With Avengers Doomsday, it's the studio's survival that's at stake. It's a gamble. Marvel will either revive the studio for another decade or end it permanently. Yes, superhero fatigue exists, but does Marvel fatigue really exist? The first teaser showing Captain's return broke all the records. On X, it outperformed Infinity War, did even better than Endgame, and how does it compare to the X-Men's return? Honestly, the hype hasn't been this wild since Endgame. 4 teasers were released in theaters before Avatar 3, and it appears 3 more are planned. Maybe not in theaters, but at least online. 7 teasers for 7 central aspects of the characters and the plot, all leading up to the Super Bowl, the ultimate trailer. That's why I'm suggesting we watch a classic analysis and theory video together today. We'll examine the details, hidden elements, and comic connections these teasers now reveal. Let's try to predict the upcoming teasers and prepare for Doomsday together. We're finally analyzing real content instead of just rumors. And that, my friends, feels great, doesn't it? Get ready to feast your eyes. We're entering the spoiler zone, full of danger. You are, with Kevin Buckott, your favorite theorist's favorite theorist. Intro. The Reconquest strategy. A few weeks ago, my buddies from the spoiler room and I were pretty unanimous. A year-long theater-only teaser campaign seemed like a wild, almost baffling strategy to us, but we admit we were wrong. Some real blunders, but honestly, with that mustache, Marvel is pulling off a masterstroke after the messy phases 4 and 5, where the good and the bad are mixed together, but above all, there's way too much content and very few connections. The general public has simply deserted the theaters. What can we say about the mediocre series, even though they started so well on Disney? Some call it superhero fatigue and the end of an era. Superheroes were going to suffer the same fate as Westerns, Peplum films, or Norman, disappearing into indifference after years of glory. That's why Bob Chapek, who caused this mess, was removed, and Bob Iger came out of retirement in the Bahamas to save the Winter Soldier. And then, the cuts were sharp. They cancelled everything they could. They quickly got rid of all the expired crap from the closet and called back the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. The crown jewels tried to revive the hype, but honestly, it didn't work then. This is the worst thing they could do. What are you supposed to do with this character? You're wasting your shot. It's stupid.
It's an admission of failure. They're in the process of...
Yeah, a huge admission of failure, the famous admission of failure that made Steven resign.
I don't know if you realize how much they're taking us for fools. Seriously, I feel like crying, guys.
A year and a half later, the bet is clearly paying off, even with 2025 promising solid movies like Thunderbolt and the Fantastic Four. A teaser with Steve Rogers was needed to wake up all the sleeping fans. And this campaign, which started in the intimacy of theaters, quickly spread across the internet. This first teaser simply broke the record held by Endgame for the number of views in the first 24 hours on X. Yes, Captain's good looks are at the heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. By the way, whether it was a failed attempt or a stroke of genius, trailers had never leaked so much on the internet. Well, whether it's a stroke of genius or a manipulative conspiracy, I'll let you be the judge. But the result is the same. Everyone is scrambling for it. The latest leak, hardcore fans want to see it on the big screen, at the movies, and when it finally comes out, everyone is amazed. For a month, we've experienced a nearly ritual event. Marvel has eliminated the competition by keeping everyone talking about their movie, which doesn't release for another year. Does anyone remember the Supergirl teaser? These teasers aren't meant to reveal the plot or impress us visually, right? They're built like a narrative and emotional reconstruction. They reposition key Marvel Universe characters, add strong symbolism, and remind audiences why the Marvel Cinematic Universe once mattered. So far, we've had 4 teasers: Steve Rogers, Thor Odinson, the X-Men, and the Wakanda Fantastic Four meeting. 4 major generational pillars. I doubt Disney will stop here. The Avatar run won't last 6 months, and they won't make people keep buying tickets just for the new teaser. All signs point to at least 2 more, and as with news of the 4th, this information also comes from Korea. So, take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because Well, clearly not everyone agrees on how to interpret this, but if I take the theory a bit further, I can definitely imagine it. No. Not 5, not 6, but 7 teasers. 7 teasers leading us to the Super Bowl. And we'll talk more about those other teasers in detail at the end of the video. But how is that possible? Filming just finished. Remember, before it all began, John Rocha said on a podcast that Marvel had around 30 teaser edits ready. That seemed surreal to us at the time, but now we understand why. And above all, we shouldn't forget that the film's release was pushed back by 6 months, which gives more time for post-production. Sure, but also that the schedules were planned to have a lot of material ready 6 months before the original release. And when you look more closely, you realize these aren't teasers released at random. Each one works almost like post-credit scenes that we all would have dreamed of having as a direct link between the films. Since Endgame and Doomsday, the Russo brothers confirmed Doomsday is a direct sequel to Endgame, so phases 4 and 5 will continue. But the goal is to attract the fans of Doomsday, not those of Ironheart and She-Hulk. No, so they're coming to fix what hasn't worked for years in just over a minute, and that's what's beautiful. For example, we can say that the first teaser is the post-credit scene of Avengers Endgame, which, by the way, doesn't have one. It directly follows Steve's actions and fills the huge void left by his absence, where Steve is just chilling, my rough guy. The second one would be the post-credit scene of Thor: Love and Thunder. We forget Hercules and nearly redeem the god of thunder, restoring his incredible godly presence. Not a clown. Taika, I'll never forgive you. The third could directly follow Days of Future Past. Even though, as you'll see, it's not that simple. But Cyclops, guys, we haven't seen him look this good since, well, never. Actually, just go ahead. X-Men 97, go for it. And finally, the last one would clearly be a post-credit scene from Wakanda Forever, if the Fantastic Four had come out before. Basically, the kind of post-credit scene that really makes you drool. It hypes things up and makes our fallen heroes look badass. We just want the sequel now. The symbols, looks, postures, tone, music, and cinematography all create pure iconography here. The Russo brothers themselves said so. They thoroughly studied Snyder's films before starting this movie. Love him or not, Zack Snyder's work has a distinct, stronger style than the past 5 years' 773 movies and series. The Russo brothers are planning the decade's biggest aura farming, and everyone agrees. Their return will help, but will it overcome the fatigue? Time will tell. One thing's certain, 2026 is finally a great year for Marvel fans. We can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. The Daredevil team, Born Again, Spider-Man, Brand New Day, The Punisher Special, Vision Quest, X-Men 97 Avengers, Doomsday. Alright, enough with the flattery. Let's get down to these teasers, we'll analyze them in detail and try to guess what the next supposed teasers could be. Steve Rogers' duty. Let's talk about our good old Steve. The absent one, the most notable from the Multiverse saga, finally reappears. The teaser shows Patan's house, nearly identical to the one at the end of Avengers Endgame. Time has passed, you can feel it right away. Steve is married, he now has a child, and the vegetation around the house has changed. It has grown, it has taken its place, life has gone on. What? Despite everything, if we believe the leaked photos from the set, it really seems like Steve went back to live his life, right after the war. As shown by those old cars from the 1950s, this voiceless teaser aims to reposition Captain. He built the life Tony suggested, yet something still seems off in these images. We first see Steve on his motorcycle, seemingly heading home. However, the wind turbine shown is from his house. He's actually leaving, not returning. So yeah, maybe it doesn't mean anything, but still, the Russos know that these teasers are going to be overanalyzed by big nerds like me, so nothing is left to chance. Next, there's a close-up, really emphasizing the brand of the motorcycle. And here's an important detail. It's not a Harley-Davidson, the iconic brand of Captain America, but a Triumph. That's clearly not a coincidence. It shows we're in an alternate branch, not 616. We then see him storing his Endgame suit in a box. Captain America is directly behind him. He appears happy as a family man, holding a baby and showing good character. I'm not sure if these scenes are in the movie, but they were shown for a reason. Each shot is packed with details. The ring, the motorcycle, visual choices, and Steve wears different outfits in every scene. The teaser presents a chronological montage. Time passes, each shot corresponds to a moment in his new life. And I think Doomsday won't really show us this version of Steve, but an older version, though not as old as in Endgame, obviously. But time will keep passing. Another proof that time is moving on is that one of the set photos shows a swing, and I don't think a baby can use a swing. Doomsday happens years later. Recent leaked promo photos show a bearded Steve with Mjolnir. So whether it's true or false, it doesn't matter. That's Jay's theory since the beginning. For me, Steve isn't coming back as captain. Quite the opposite. His job is to legitimize Sam in this suit, but he'll also play a role in the coming crisis, which you may already know. I doubt Captain actually returned the stones to Mjolnir. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, physics dictates that traveling to the past creates a new future, so changing the past doesn't affect the present. During the time heist, stealing the stones didn't change their present. It didn't create an apocalypse. It just created branches, alternate pasts, where the stones were stolen. And the Avengers were able to return to their reality thanks to Stark's global positioning system, but nothing indicates that they're able to return exactly to the moment when those stones were stolen. Since these universes became branches, and there was never any mention of intermultiversal travel technology like the Time Variance Authority's only time travel. Anyway, all this to say that Captain probably tried to return the stones but ended up in the past of 616 where the stones had never moved. And the same goes for Mjolnir. He chose to remain in the past and build his own life, his own path, because changing the past isn't the only factor like with the stones. Because of him, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has two Captain Americas in its timeline, not just in his own branch. In short, it's complicated, but it needed to be explained again, because it's an essential point that the movie will have to clarify quickly. During Endgame, even the Russo brothers and screenwriter Steve McFeely disagreed on what actually happened. And yet, it's the same Endgame team that's working on Doomsday today. But we also know that they got some help this time. Waldron, the man who wrote the Multiverse Bible in Loki, the very complex Multiverse Bible. That point will be settled, likely supporting my hypothesis, meaning the time heist is truly a heist. They stole the stones, doomed those universes, they didn't just borrow them, and those actions probably led to the creation of many incursions. By the way, that's one of the theories that has been circulating in recent months. Steve might be the one responsible for the destruction of Doom's universe. I don't believe the movie will focus entirely on Cap being blamed for the multiverse's fall and Doom's troubles. Yes, he's likely one of the contributors like Strange, Spidey, Captain Marvel, etc. Showing us his family and his role as a father is key. It explains why he must return to the fight even in retirement. Steve finally has a true reason to fight beyond fear of disappearing or duty. Now, like Tony, his whole world is threatened, and partly because of him. And actually, parenthood is a central theme in these teasers. Those of us who discovered the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2008 have seen our lives change a lot, with many becoming parents, deepening our bond with these heroes. However, I don't think that children themselves are at the heart of the plot, as many people believe. Some theories suggest that Doom's plan would be to kidnap all these children to exploit their power, and that the fathers, not happy about it, would go and get them back. I completely disagree with that theory, mainly because it's lame. Let me remind you of Love and Thunder. But mostly because the second teaser completely disproves that idea. Thor prays to be able to go home to his daughter, he doesn't ask to find her. He asks to go home to teach her peace, not to teach her how to fight. So no, the main theme isn't about children, but about life itself. These heroes now lead families. They fight not to prove themselves, but to protect what they cherish most. That theme appears in all the teasers. This teaser focuses on inevitability, not guilt. This isn't easy. Steve has something more valuable than his own life to lose. Like Tony, he has a family, a life, and a future, which is why he must return to battle. This house was kept hidden for a long time during filming under the codename Luke Cage's house, and a scene was filmed there, with Robert Downey Jr. and likely Loki too, either to warn, blame, or recruit him. We'll see, but this is where he joins the fight. I finally told you about Endgame, and I hope my explanations make you happy. But if Steve comes from another universe, how did he give the shield to Sam? Well, if you've been following me, you know that I think old Steve comes from the future. That he has already lived through the Secret Wars and that he brought this shield back from that future. Well, how? Clearly I have the answer, but we'll see. The only thing we know for now is that this shield is not the same as the one destroyed by Thanos. It actually has absolutely nothing to do with any of the ones we've seen before, so it's not his. And I think that here, in this teaser, Steve doesn't have that famous shield yet, but he'll probably get it later, from the hands of a variant. Because one of the strongest theories right now is based on the idea that Captain's mission would be to create an army of captains from the multiverse, all united by Mjolnir. A moment directly inspired by the Avengers Forever run, where Loki Prime gathers an army of captains to fight against Doom's armies led by Doom Supreme. Thor might also have the same goal, to form the Thor Corps from Secret Wars. We'll discuss that now. Thor returns. The teaser opens in a pine forest, far from civilization. He prays to his father, Odin, the last All-Father. Sam Schwartz gives a performance that surpasses his last 4 films just with his voice. His acting Thor becomes the Thor of the Russos again, or at least the one from Infinity War. And contrary to what the teaser might suggest, Thor doesn't seem to be heading into a battle. He seems rather to be coming back from it, coming back from hell. By now he knows his enemy has faced doom and has likely already been brought to his knees. He leans on Stormbreaker, yet he finished Love and Thunder with Mjolnir. So, either that weapon was destroyed again, or his first defeat made him realize that he needed a god-killing weapon, and therefore Stormbreaker. When you look at the scene more closely, Thor's posture seems to hide his other arm, as if it's a clue suggesting that in this battle, he may have lost not only Mjolnir, but also his arm. A few seconds later, both hands are clearly visible. Remember, the Russos often hide things in trailers, like Hulk in the Infinity War trailer. This Thor may be approaching Old King Thor or All-Father Thor. Two versions of the character where his left arm was replaced by the Destroyer's arm after he lost it. In any case, I think this is the perfect time to introduce him. Although Thor's role shifted from the main Marvel Cinematic Universe plot, how could the God of Thunder rejoin the battle? I think it's all tied to his adopted daughter Love, since she's actually the focus of this teaser. Love is the reincarnated daughter of Gore, the God Butcher. When he reaches eternity, a cosmic entity tied to the very existence of the multiverse, he makes a wish, and instead of choosing hatred, he chooses love. Love is reborn as eternity's physical form, an overpowered child. But the teaser shows Love in her bed, with her head down, and it's possible that she's the trigger for everything. I think her health is directly affected by the collapse of the multiverse. Like I said, she won't be kidnapped by Doom. Despite her power, she's threatened by reality disappearing. That's why Thor will try to save her by fighting those who endanger her. And it's not a fight against a simple antagonist, but a fight against extinction. Thor is probably the character who has gone through the harshest evolution in the Marvel Universe. He lost everything and experienced every stage. Love gives him a fresh start and purpose. And like Captain, Thor no longer fights for himself, nor for Asgard, nor even for the universe, he fights for her. But let's get back to the prayer, it's crucial. In this teaser, when Thor speaks to his father, he asks for the strength of the All-Fathers, plural. In other words, what we call the Odin Force or Odin Forces could mean two things. Thor might be asking for the combined power of all past Asgardian kings, or for an Odin Force from the entire multiverse. Thor gives up his freedom as a hero, embraces his mythic destiny, and becomes the next father of everything. A prayer that seems to be accepted, as shown by the rumbling of thunder, and that fits perfectly with the theme of fatherhood. To save his daughter, Thor is willing to sacrifice what little he has left, his life. That's what will drive him to rise again after this first confrontation. This prayer might be heard by his father or the all-powerful god of stories. Loki is trapped in the citadel at the end of time and can't act directly. The destruction of many universes has likely badly damaged Yggdrasil. And just as he could ask Captain to recruit an army, he could offer his brother that famous strength and the ability to travel across the multiverse, to create the Thor Corps. In the Secret Wars comics, God Emperor Doom's battlefield security force consists of Thor variants. You'll find the one from 816 Ultimate Universe Thor, Frog Thor, Jane Foster's Mighty Thor, Old Thor, Storm Thor, and Beta Ray. In short, a joyful mess that could very well be set up here to face Doom before maybe joining his ranks during Secret Wars. We'll likely need all that to face Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom. As suggested by the next teaser, the one for the X-Men, Mutant Utopia, it's probably the teaser that has generated the most hype. The Marvel community. And for good reason, years after the last truly good X-Men movie, Days of Future Past. The Xavier Institute returns with the franchise's legendary actors. The opening scene reveals a mansion damaged by conflict, overturned statues, scattered debris, and the iconic school sign amid ashes. Here's what I noticed in my initial teaser analysis. Switching to 22p mode and high definition changes everything. Yes, a shootout took place inside. Bullet impacts are clearly visible in the library. But the mansion doesn't seem to be in that state just because of a fight. It looks like it's been abandoned for a long time, unused, or at least not active. It's clearly not the same mansion as in the old movies. The proof is obvious. The Institute's legendary staircase is now 2 staircases. The atmosphere is darker in spiral form, and even the stained glass windows differ. That's a clear sign. We're not in any movie sequel or the Days of Future Past timeline. This is a brand new universe, the one Monica Rambeau enters in the Marvel's post-credits scene. Insider reports say this universe is a mutant utopia where Magneto has created his own nation and mutants live peacefully with humans. And that's probably why the X-Men mansion doesn't really have a purpose anymore. Originally, it served as a refuge for young mutants to help them master their powers and protect them from the outside world. But in a world where mutants are no longer threatened, its very existence becomes almost useless. However, that doesn't mean it doesn't house the X-Men's base, since the post-credits scene shows us that it does exist. And yes, some of you still think it could be a direct sequel to the end of Days of Future Past, and it's true that in the movie, as in the comics, the mansion was destroyed, built countless times, but never like this. So we're likely dealing with a branch of the universe we know? The characters are similar, but a major event changed their fate. The mutant apocalypse was prevented, which ironically now endangers their universe. Like Strange's accident, Peter Parker's bite, or Tony Stark's capture, the mutant apocalypse is a nexus event. An inevitable event likely causes the incursions. Alex Perez says this universe is now fighting to survive. The mutants have already faced several incursions, starting with the Marvels, when the Beast appears to discover the multiverse. They did what was needed to survive, destroying worlds that threatened them. Now everything makes sense. Because in this teaser, we find the two legendary figures of the mutants, Charles Xavier and Magneto, two versions that are once again very different from the ones we know. Charles wears a tactical jacket with the red X-Men logo facing an older, peaceful Magneto. In an outfit much more casual than his usual costume, these two looks immediately make me think of Chris Claremont's Excalibur run number 3. Charles is now more than a professor or X-Men leader, but joins Magneto to rebuild Genosha after a giant sentinel destroys the mutant island. Magneto appears at peace here. We've always seen him in conflict, but here his dream appears realized. He likely rules this mutant utopia, and the two men aren't opposed. It's actually the opposite, because deep down, their vision has always been the same. Only the way to achieve it was different, and the images clearly show us that in this universe, they share a deep bond. In this teaser, a voiceover also accompanies the images, and it's Magneto who says the line.
It comes for us all, it's all I know for sure. The question isn't, are you prepared to die? The question is, who will you be when you close your eyes?
At first glance, nothing extraordinary. You might think of a leader preparing his people for a deadly battle, a rallying speech before the inevitable. But internet users noticed a very interesting detail. This line has already been said in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, more precisely in Agatha All by Lilia. If that were all, it wouldn't matter, but it goes further. The sound after this line matches the one used in the series with Lilia. So, yes, it might seem like a red herring, but it opens up two possibilities. The first is that the character of Death, played by Aubrey Plaza, could appear in the movie. After all, given the number of characters who might die, it wouldn't be surprising. But the second possibility is much more interesting. In the comics, Magneto is Wanda's father, and therefore the grandfather of Speed and Wiccan. In this utopia, these characters could be with her, referencing Agatha All, where we learn Wiccan has powers like his mother. It's likely just a coincidence. Let's wrap up this teaser with the wild final scene. Scott Summers, or Cyclops, stands in ruins, removes his visor, and unleashes a colossal blast. Here, he's wearing the iconic costume from the Jim Lee version, which confirms that the X-Men team really does exist in this world. Even if the school isn't active anymore, this scene almost certainly takes place in the mansion's gardens. Because at the core of the X-Men, it really does exist, as the post-credit scene from the Marvels proves to us. So, the mansion's basement is probably the same. This is where Doomsday filming started last April. Next, because it was the Russo brothers themselves who shared a picture showing Victor Von Doom's chair on the set of the mansion, which suggests that this attack is probably orchestrated by him. For his part, the leaker Unboxed PhD also leaked images from the set, clearly showing the mansion's garden strewn with debris. Sentinels that can actually be seen behind Scott in this scene, and no, that's not Ant-Man. Sentinels that, according to Alex Perez, are controlled by Doom using magical runes. Let's pause and consider what this is really about. This teaser doesn't mention fatherhood directly. You can sense that Scott has lost something essential, enough to make him lose control and unleash all his power. Once again, there are several possible interpretations, the first one related to the theory about children. You know, Doom may have kidnapped his child, so maybe Nathan, who in this utopia never became Cable but is grey, mutant or homeopathic, or Rachel or Hope. Basically, they only have overpowered kids, but again, I don't believe in angry dads. I think it's simpler and more effective. The situation is already complicated. A new timeline, a new universe, and familiar but different mutants. We need to be clear to avoid confusing the audience. Like Steve and Thor, the mutants will fight for what matters most, their world. Maybe it's the only universe where they live in peace with humans. Scott's plan might also be hiding something like an Infinity War. Teasers can be misleading, deceptive. Alex Perez actually warned us on Twitter just before the release to never blindly believe what the Marvel Cinematic Universe teasers show. The Russos might be hiding that Cyclops isn't alone and could be holding a fallen companion. An image that would almost identically recreate the cover of Uncanny X-Men number 524 depicting the death of Nightcrawler. Another possibility is that the power unleashed by Scott could involve the Phoenix. Still, I don't think they're going to overload the story with too many subplots. In Secret Wars 2015, Scott survives the end of the multiverse and regains the Phoenix's powers. However, Doom is once again too powerful, and even with cosmic powers, Scott can't do anything. He gets his neck coldly broken, accompanied by this now legendary phrase from God Emperor: "The future you're talking about is a dream, boy, and the dream ends now." And crack, that's a real shock. Anyway, even though I'd love to see that, it probably won't be in this movie. Maybe in Secret Wars, let's hope. This teaser is super exciting, and Scott is finally getting the role he deserves as a true X-Men leader. In summary, this utopian world faces threats, and Charles's X-Men will likely be involved in the crisis. We also know they're not alone, as the binary Maria Rambeau exists in this universe and has the quantum bracelets. We'll see where this goes, but Doom will probably be delayed initially. Before seeking out the Avengers from 616, manipulate them into believing the real threat is the mutants. And speaking of which, let's talk about the fourth teaser, Wakanda Gathering. This last teaser might seem less impactful than the first three. For me, it gave me chills because it shows the meeting between M'Baku's Wakanda, Shuri, Talokan of Namor, and the Fantastic Four. And when you look at the details, it almost tells the whole situation of the 616 first, the location. It's clearly not on neutral ground. We're actually most likely in Wakanda, but not in the capital. This time, we're in what seems to be Shuri's new headquarters, because now it's M'Baku, the king of Wakanda. Black Panther 2's ending hinted at it, and the teaser confirms it directly from the king. This regime change has clearly had a major impact since the kingdom's founding. Bast, the panther goddess, once symbolized the palace's dominance. Now it's the primate god of the Jabari tribe. With M'Baku in charge, technological supremacy ends, and traditions return as shown by his armor. Whereas Shuri's armor is made of ultra-technological alloys, M'Baku's is mostly made of wood, but that's not all. You can also notice a turquoise alloy that's completely new for Wakanda, and this detail is fundamental. It most likely isn't Wakandan vibranium, but vibranium from Talokan. In Wakanda Forever, turquoise is the dominant color of the underwater city's vibranium jewelry, and in this teaser, it's also the color that powers Namor's weapon. It's also the shade of the plant that gave Namor and the Talokan their abilities, unlike the one from Wakanda, which is purple. So it's a very strong hint about the evolution of the relationship between Talokan and Wakanda. They are now allies. In theory, the meeting's location matters. It's an arid desert, likely the most hostile environment for the Talokan. It's clear that neither Namor nor his troops feel comfortable here. Of course, they wouldn't welcome the assassin of Queen Ramonda in the capital he destroyed. Here, Namor is kept under control in case he decides to get angry, and that's most likely the role he's going to play in this scene. Like in the comics, Namor is an anti-hero who often acts as a safeguard. In the background, you can see a pyramid, and it doesn't look like any known culture. Well, none or maybe all of them. We're viewing a monument influenced by several ancient civilizations, but the carved stone shapes are what stand out most. They're inspired by Africa, mixing patterns from Central, West, and East Africa. So we're still in Wakanda, but in an isolated region, which explains why M'Baku arrives there with his ship, and to understand where we are, we need to look at the comics. For me, there's no doubt about it. This sacred place is a necropolis, the city of the dead in Wakanda. It's where the Black Panther ritual happens in the movies, the location burned by Killmonger. Most importantly, it's where past kings and Black Panthers rest, and where the connection with Bast is strongest in the comics. This is where T'Challa settles. After giving up the throne to his sister, he is proclaimed King of the Dead there by Bast herself, the King of Kings. He then gains access to his ancestors, their knowledge, and their strength. I think that's exactly what's being adapted here. The Jabari now occupy Shuri's palace. She doesn't really belong there anymore. So her laboratory had to be moved, and I think it's now set up here in Necropolis. She says it herself in the teaser. She lost everything, and now she has to live with the ghosts of her dead. This position could shift Black Panther from the role of a warrior leader to that of a spiritual warrior. It's a very different stance from T'Challa's, and personally, I think it's brilliant. Shuri becomes a high priestess of Bast, blending technology and spirituality. But Necropolis isn't just important for that. It's the central location of the Time Runs Out storyline. The run actually begins with T'Challa discovering the first incursion. He gathers the Illuminati and sets up their base in Necropolis to address the crisis. I think that's what's happening now. Shuri once summoned the world's great powers, but now, alone and no longer queen, she can't invite them anymore. That's why M'Baku and the Dora Milaje are with her. Shuri even says the king must prepare his people for the afterlife. And she's probably talking about the fact that M'Baku should meet Bast, because Shuri knows that the crisis is inevitable. For the first time in Wakanda's history, the king isn't a Black Panther. Even though M'Baku is as strong as a gorilla, I don't think he's just an ordinary human now. His armor's color hints at an alliance with Talokan. What if M'Baku also used their plant for the royal ritual? Not to meet Bast, but his own god, the monkey god, which would have given him superhuman abilities. But we know M'Baku isn't meant to stay king. He'll likely be Wakanda's last king before T'Challa returns. Ben Grimm, not Reed Richards, is at this meeting. As suggested by the post-credit scene of the Thunderbolt movie, we can assume that the Fantastic Four arrive in the 616 via their ship and are welcomed by the Thunderbolts. But questions remain. Are the teams separated, and are the others elsewhere? An Instagram behind-the-scenes photo showed the actor as Ben Grimm aboard their ship with United States Agent and Falcon. It's surprising to see these three representing their teams at such an important meeting. Unless the others are occupied elsewhere, possibly handling a real incursion, as the Thunderbolt post-credits scene suggests with its mention of a space incident. I think they'll all be there. Most of the cast was seen in Bahrain, likely where this film segment was shot. You can spot the actors playing Sam Falcon, Shang-Chi, Ghost, M'Baku, Shuri, Namor, Namora, and Atuma there. If Shuri is gathering everyone, it's to announce the end is near. We still don't know if the Fantastic Four caused this incursion or have the solution. By the way, whether they're with or without Doom on that ship, so many questions. Waiting a whole year is going to feel long, right? Let's finish analyzing this teaser with Namora, Talokan's main warrior and Namor's cousin, whose mutation also seems to be evolving. Her typically bluish skin is turning pink. In the comics, Namora, like Namor, can breathe underwater and on land. Marvel might be planning to highlight her mutation to make her more important. I think we've already discussed these teasers quite a bit. But the real question now is, will there be more to come? The next teasers, 4 teasers had been announced and all 4 are now available. So what can we expect now? Nothing official yet. French theaters only got instructions for the initial teasers. Despite all the hype from these teasers, several heroes are still missing. Yes, we expected to see Doctor Doom. John Rocha also said the first trailer would show a lot. So what? Will we have to wait for the Super Bowl for the rest? Not necessarily. In Korea, upcoming teasers are registered with the Korea Media Rating Board before release. And that's interesting. The 5th teaser is 1 minute, 5 seconds long, and the 6th is 1 minute, 22 seconds. And since the 6th one was listed very recently, I personally expect a 7th teaser. Why? Because it would totally make sense with the symbolism the movie is trying to convey. Yes, Doomsday is about the multiverse's end, but mainly explores Genesis. Victor Von Doom is the antagonist, yet he sees his mission as noble. Like God, he would have 7 days to save the multiverse and create a new world. Reliable insiders say this 7-day countdown would structure the whole movie. So for me, 7 teasers. The time when I recorded the video is today, and the 7th teaser appeared on the Korean platform. So it looks good, guys, it looks good, but that's not all. I'm not sure Disney will keep showing only teasers in theaters much longer. Avatar 3's run is nearly over, and they're likely tired of all the leaks. Teasers from the previous week will now be released every Tuesday at 9 a.m. in the United States or 3 p.m. for us. And if we do a little math, there are exactly 4 Tuesdays left before the Super Bowl, which will bring us to exactly 7 teasers before the big teaser. Final trailer, so 7 teasers and 1 trailer, or maybe just 6 teasers and a trailer focused on Doom. It's up to you. 2 full months of non-stop discussions about the most anticipated movie of the year. Once again, it's genius. Remember, John Rocha said there were about 30 teasers ready. Now let's have some fun and see what's missing. Captain Thor, the X-Men, Wakanda, and the Fantastic Four are confirmed, but the official casting announcement still left several people unaccounted for. Let me do my shopping. For teaser 5, I'd choose the Avengers teaser, maybe Sam and Bucky meeting to unite the teams. The Russos have shown they can make characters iconic in seconds, even those previously mistreated or ignored by the public. Sam's real leader speech finally spotlighted him and confirmed the Avengers' return. Next, teaser 6 featuring a major absentee, Loki, the setting of the stories, the liberator of the multiverse, and probably one of the architects of its downfall, Loki must be shown. We need to interest people unfamiliar with his series who wonder why Loki is still around. He discussed his escape after Endgame, his role, how he became the god above gods, and finally teaser number 7. I'm warning you, I'm letting loose. Now it's not about what's likely but what I want to see, like that wild rumor. I'll create a teaser showing Doom stepping over the Kang Council members he just killed. We hear Robert Downey Jr.'s voice in this role for the first time, the camera pans up, reveals the costume, and he turns to explain he's the only solution. On the other side is Doctor Strange. Now everyone is here, we agree, we're happy and ready. Fired up, the stage is set for Marvel to throw their trailer at us. Sadly, this string of teasers is likely the best Marvel has done in years. It's creative, it's engaging, it recreates an emotional bond between the audience and its heroes, it refocuses attention on what's essential, and it prepares us for a new beginning, because Doomsday isn't an end, it's a rebirth. After that, it's possible everything ends at 4, and the next trailer is just the Super Bowl trailer. I don't want to believe it, but it's possible, right? But I'm in total denial. I want more. Don't make that mistake. Marvel, tell me what you think about all this. Yes, it was a very long video, but what a thrill to get back to raw analysis. Most importantly, stay curious. That's the key to happiness. Bye.